In today's episode, we want to go through 5 questions that couplepreneurs or business owners should ask themselves if your business is not growing and not increasing in sales.
It's not the business we were meant to be in.
Now you're in control of your own success. What are things that you do that you love and you want to keep? What are things that I do that I love and I want to keep? And what are things that we're like, nah, we can let that go. Someone else can do that. What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making Show.
Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making Show, aka the M4 Show. King, where can they tap in with us?
Y'all can tap in with us at www.them4show.com. Also tap in with us on Instagram at the M4 Show. If you got topics that you want to see, hit us in the DMs. We appreciate you.
Now let's get into the episode.
If for whatever reason this is your first time, my name is Devon Chevelle, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. And with me I have my beautiful, my smiling, my locked up queen herself. Please introduce yourself.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Sinclair, aka the health and real estate nerd. I've had to add that in there recently just because I want to make sure that I'm also branding myself in the real estate. So I need to figure out a way to make that sound cool.
Indeed. We'll work on it.
Okay.
In today's episode, we want to go through 5 questions that couplepreneurs or business owners should ask themselves if your business is not growing and not increasing in sales. All right. So again, if you have an active business right now, for whatever reason, you've hit a barrier, a threshold, we want to help you out. This is your first time. We've started our first business in 2016. In 2021, we were able to retire the queen from her 9 to 5. In 2024, we were able to get 6 figures and retire me from my 9 to 5. So we're going to be able to go through some of our lessons, some of our losses with you all, and hopefully get you the most amount of income in the least amount of time. Queen, are you ready?
I'm ready. It's going to be an interesting stroll down memory lane because we have also hit that barrier.
Oh, for sure. All right, let's jump right in. Queen, number 1 on the list. You know I'm a gentleman, so I'm gonna have you ask the first question.
The first question is, are we in the right business? Do we love what we are building?
Great question to ask yourself. I think sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in the rat race, get caught up in the, I did this idea because it was trendy, or I did this idea because a friend did it and they made 6 figures, and then you get into it. And for whatever reason, things just aren't clicking the same. And it could be because you're not in the right business. We had this exact experience in 2020. In 2020, we had the idea. We were sitting at an Olive Garden with her parents, and we were just like, wouldn't it be cool if you can get homemade food, homemade meals to your house, right? So if you were a chef, you were good at cooking, if you can just cook something in your house, put it up on a platform, and then people can come and pick it up from your house or get it delivered. That would be dope, right? That was the idea. We wrote it down. At the time, it was illegal in California. Fast forward a year and a half, it now becomes legal in California, and we start what business, Sinclair?
Potluck. Or Potluck Community LLC.
We started Potluck Community LLC. We were excited about the opportunity to get into the tech game. The TAM, the SAM, the SOM were huge. This is a total market. Total addressable market, TAM, serviceable addressable market, SAM, serviceable obtainable market, SOM. We're huge for this industry.
Shameless plug, if that did not make any sense to you, go back to our previous episode where we break those down.
Yeah, fully break it down. Thank you, Queen. But the market for those were huge for food industry, and we wanted to get a piece of that Silicon Valley type vibe. We built an app, sweat, tears, equity, myself and TC working it out. We built an app that was able to send notifications. You were able to get food delivered. You were able to schedule stuff. It was dope. I think arguably top 5 hardest things we've ever done, which is why it was so hard to give it up.
Yeah.
But at some point, Queen, we had to make a decision. And why did we decide to go elsewhere?
So I want to go take a step back because I think for me, I'm big on signs And like when I have an idea or when I'm not sure about something, I look for signs. And I kind of think of that as like, it's a sign from God and like guidance on like, should I do this or should I not? But I think for me, when we first had the idea, like you said, it was not legal. So it was like, oh man, this could just be cool, right? To be able to sell food out of your house. And of course, coming from, I think we're probably talking about like my parents cooking because they both can throw down. And people come over and like, you can ask Jay, you get our cameraman look at it today because he just tried my mom's pecan bars and was like, oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Right.
Oh no.
So we're like, I'm spoiled because I know my parents cooking. I've always had good cooking at home, and it's always like, man, it'd be cool if like other people could also experience this. So the fact that it became legal in California, and I had a techie brother and husband that could put together an app. I had a mom who, again, can throw down in the kitchen and wanted to, and was willing to be the first chef on the platform to be able to kind of walk through what is the process of making your kitchen a reality. And so to me, though, I'm like, all these signs are telling me this is a go. This is a go. Like I would be remiss. I would be like, what if we didn't do it? Still very happy that we did it because I wouldn't have liked the what if. Right. I'm happy to know that like we tried it, didn't work out, great. But to your point, I think the missing piece was the passion. Now, was I interested in the idea? Of course. Do I love the idea of home cooked meals and that being a form of love? Absolutely. Do I support other businesses doing this? 1000%. Yeah. That doesn't mean that I need to be the one running the company and making this my life's mission, because it wasn't like my passion. It wasn't my bag. Yeah. Because again, the idea, like, what I liked about it was pushing the whole home cooked meals, but the idea of running a tech company was like, oh, absolutely not. I want nothing with the tech business and, that part of it. And so, again, seeing other folks that were really into it, like part of the legislation and pushing it, I'm like, it's not that deep for me. So to me, that's a sign that this is maybe not where I'm supposed to be, because it takes that level of commitment. It takes that level of drive. It takes that level of it being a part of your identity, right? We talked about in a previous episode, kind of the hierarchy of a product or service. I think as a company owner, it needs to be a part of your identity. And it honestly wasn't. So I think that's where the disconnect was. And it took us, we probably had to have the initial conversation a year before we actually decided, let's close up shop. It took us a year of struggling through it, of me showing up to info sessions every single week to talk to people about, hey, I got this great idea, people not showing up and it dragging and just, us, what seems like doing the work and not getting the return, to be like, what is the missing piece? And I think, again, at the end of the day, it was just not our passion. It's not the business we were meant to be in. Yeah.
And how would you, what advice would you have for other people that are doing a business? And I think the toughest part about us giving up on potluck was we had put it out there. We had the whole family meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Our friends were tapping in like, oh, that's a dope app. Like keep going. You can do it. So the app externally had to become a part of our identity, but internally it wasn't a part of our identity. So what advice would you have for people who are holding on to an idea simply because of how other people will look at them?
You gotta let it go, honestly. So I think it comes down to how are you looking at yourself? And that sounds cliche, but it at some point was getting to me that the fact that I'm sitting here, I'm spending so much time, I'm putting in so much effort to something that, not that I don't believe in, but that do I really, if I picture myself 50 years out, do I actually see myself being oh yeah, I'm potluck, CEO, whatever. And it's that image was never very clear to me. And so I think it's do I want to get to a point where, everybody else is oh man, look at them, they're doing it, it's so cool, they brought their idea to life, but I'm kind of okay. And I think it also, I think me waking up and starting to realize that the full-time job that I had at the time was also kind of making me feel that same drag, this doesn't feel like what I'm supposed to be doing. It was a familiar feeling to me. So I feel feeling that then with something, a passion project, that I'm choosing to do, that I'm not getting paid for, was like, this is not how this should feel. Because I didn't feel that way about the podcast. I didn't feel that way about Play Black Wall Street. So again, it was like, this doesn't feel like how I'm supposed to feel when about a passion project. You should be passionate about it. You should, again, want to see it. You should be able to envision and dream about what it could look like. It shouldn't be a struggle to see where is this business going to be in 50 years and actually believe that it could get there. I think that's the other piece for me, was the belief, honestly, that it could get to where we wanted it to get to, because it just wasn't happening with the amount of time and effort that we were putting into it. It was like, I don't see how where we are right now and where we want to get is going to happen.
That was good.
Yeah.
So if you are doing it just for the bag or just to impress people, it might be time to let that business go. And that might be why it's not growing. Okay. So I want to go to number 2. We got 5 total questions. Let's try to get through all 5 within 40 minutes. We can do it. Y'all have faith in us. We have faith in us. We can do it. Number 2, what are your measurable metrics of success? Right? I think sometimes we get into the survival mode of business and we start just doing a whole bunch of things. We don't have measurable targets and goals. So if you are right now in a business and for whatever reason it's not growing, what are you actively and intentionally measuring each week, each month, each year, and how do you make sure you're making slow progress in that? Queen, any additional context to give on what type of roller coaster we've been through in business when we weren't measuring metrics?
Yeah. Well, I think it's called like firefighting is what we used to call it at my full-time job. Is like when you're in firefighting mode, like think about, you got to get the hose, you got to just get the fire out. You're not worried about anything else. You're not really worried about how many fires have we actually had this year. It doesn't matter because I just need to get the flames out, right? You're not worried, what actually started this fire? Are we going to address what started this fire? It doesn't matter because you need to put the flames out. And so I think it is the measurables allow you to actually sit and ask those questions so that you can be improving. It takes a level of like, let me step back and assess the situation from above in order to measure these things and look back. So I think like really important metrics, if you're like, I have no idea where to start, sales is probably very important, especially if you have a product, if you have a service where you are needing to make money, like that is a big metric that everybody should be, I think, measuring. So sales, like marketing, right? How many people are you actually reaching? And like productivity. I think those are probably 3 of the most important things that you should figure out how to measure.
And what I like to do is measure things that you have 100% control over, especially at the beginning, right? So we talked about sales. Maybe you're not measuring the amount of revenue that you're creating in sales because that can be a little bit daunting. Like, oh, did I get $1,000? I get $10,000, $100,000. But you're measuring how many phone calls did I make to create sales, right? How many cold calls did I do? How many cold emails did I send out this week? You have 100% control over how many phone calls and emails you make. Social media marketing. Maybe you're not measuring likes and comments, but how many posts did I post this week? Right? You have 100% control over how many IG posts, how many times you go live, how many long form pieces of content you create. So if you can track those things, now you're in control of your own success. I think we made that shift in maybe 2023, late 2022, in having KPIs, key performance indicators, on things that we have 100% control over. And I think that's when we started to see a little bit of a shift, at least in my own habits, as well as my own stress over things. Like not worrying about how many game sales, not worried about how many likes, just did I post today? Yes. Did I make my phone calls today? Yes. Did me and Sinclair have a retreat? Yes. Right? What are those key strategic things that you have 100% control over? Love, you have something you want to add there?
I somewhat disagree. I don't want to say disagree. I want to add on that I think it's still important to also track the sales because I think it's like input and output values. I think, like you said, to start off with, you're not going to know how much sales it's going to lead to because you haven't posted. You haven't done the outreach first. So again, to start off, I think absolutely focus on the action-oriented things because that's what you can control. But I do think that it is also important, and that's where you want to put the most weight in, I think, is the action-oriented things. But I do think it is also important to look at the output so that you can see what's working and what's not. Because you can be doing the posts for a year straight. If they're not actually increasing your sales, there's something missing, right? So you should see it gradually increase, and that shows you you're doing something right. If not, then it's time to reevaluate, right? You got the habit of posting every day, which is great, but now we need to figure out, how do we alter this post? Is it hashtags? Is it, a different space? Is it how you're approaching the post? What is it saying, that type of thing, that you need to kind of remix to improve the output. So I do think it is important to track both, but I think focusing on, the action-oriented things is the most important. And it's almost like, and I have a background in creating scorecards we still need to finish ours. But I think, again, you want to, like, on a daily, weekly basis, be keeping eye on the action-oriented things, right? Did I make my phone calls? Did I send my emails? Did I make the post? But maybe over a month or over a quarter or over the year is where you also need to look at the output values. How did those daily phone calls, those daily emails actually affect the sales, actually affect the, the marketing, what's it called?
Engagement,
thank you. Yeah. So I do think it's important, but I think the daily, weekly things should definitely be the action-oriented things. Yeah. But again, I think it's also good to, at some frequency, even if it's just once a quarter, even if it's just once a year when you're starting out, also look at how that's affecting the bigger picture things, the productivity, the sales,
Agreed. All right. So again, we're going through 5 questions for couplepreneurs or business owners that have a business, but for whatever reason, you've hit that wall, you've hit that barrier, and your growth has stopped or drastically slowed down. And we're just going through some things that you might want to ask yourself or your partner, both people, in order to get right back on track. All right. We've been there, we've done that, and now we're on the other side of that, at least for Play Black Wall Street. Queen, number 3.
How are responsibilities and tasks in the business divided? This was a game changer for us.
Why was it a game changer, Queen?
Because I feel like at the beginning, we've definitely grown our team, which has been great. The normal day-to-day running the business, I feel like, is still mostly me and you. And so I feel like when you're first starting out, it's just kind of like, okay, well, let's just divide things, 50-50, what things can you do, what things can I do? And you just start giving people tasks. But until you figure out which task is actually going to be the best, let me take a step back. Perfect example of this is, I used to be doing sales. I used to be the one sending, not the one, the only one. He was still doing it, but that was part of my, duties. I needed to make the phone calls, make the emails. He even incentivized me with a new car. When I tell you my '07 Honda Accord is still in the driveway right now, that should tell you how effective
that was. Would that have worked for y'all? I was literally like, listen, Sinclair, if you get $60,000 worth of sales, I will buy you a Tesla. You get $60,000. That's all you gotta do. $60,000 and a Tesla is yours. She's like, all right, bet, let's do it. She sent 7 cold emails. I was like, you know what? This ain't for me. I'm gonna ride this Honda and I'll be perfectly okay in bed.
I get from point A to point E. It'll be just fine right now. It'll be okay. Rather than stressing each day about I was just like, is this worth it? I don't know. I'll be sitting stressing in my Tesla. I don't think it's worth it.
But that's a prime example of the incentive could be there, but if your personality type isn't for sales or isn't for accounting, it doesn't matter, right? That's not what's going to motivate you. And we could have flipped that. We could have been like, Devon, if you have amazing accounting records and you create a very organized profit and loss statement, I'll buy you a Tesla. And I would have been stressing, gray hair everywhere. I probably still would have got it done, but it would have taken a long time and that profit and loss statement wouldn't have been as well put together as the Queen's profit and loss statement, right? So it's about figuring out what are your zones of genius. What are you naturally gifted in and you can get better over time in? What am I naturally gifted in and I can get better over time in? And let's situate ourselves there. And then I don't want to go to number 4 without transition. But then it's like hire people that do the things that both y'all aren't good at or both y'all aren't passionate at, right? So again, huge game changer when we flipped and I was focusing on sales. She was focusing on all the accounting, organization stuff, although she's not passionate about it. Very detail oriented and very good at doing it. So that relieved stress from me and allowed me to increase what I love to do, which is sales, teaching, engaging with people, developing curriculum, developing games, writing children's book. I now can do all the creative stuff because I didn't have to be stressed on doing the organization stuff. So that might be the bottleneck for y'all, right? Y'all might be doing the right task, but the wrong people are doing the tasks and doing the responsibilities. So it's not about ego. It's not about pride. It's not about you doing more work or you doing more tasks. It's about you doing the right work and the right tasks. All right. Queen, you ready for number 4?
I have one more thing to add.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're not sure, if you are listening to us and you're like, but how do you know what you're supposed to be good at? Like, I don't know what I'm good at yet. I'm just starting out. One of the tools that we did use that was super helpful was a DISC assessment or some type of personality assessment that can help you figure out like, okay, you have more of an analytical brain or you have more of a, supportive brain. And that can also help you because those results that you get are usually pretty detail oriented that tell you like, these are the tasks that are probably good for you. These are incentives that would probably work for you. This is how you operate. This is how your brain works type of thing. So that can be really helpful if you have everybody on your team do that so you can figure out like, okay, you're probably better for this type of task. And once you do that, again, it alleviates so much stress on, what people are expected to do. And it allows for the creative juices again. For the people that are creative, if your business thrives on people being creative, they need to not be in that firefighting mode for the creativity to come. So I think we also realize that our business thrives based on Devon's creativity. So I need to make sure I'm taking care of those tasks that can relieve him of the stress so that he can be creating our courses and he can be, doing all the things, teaching with his enthusiasm, because I know that's not my bad, so that we can grow the business.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well said. Something that builds on number 3, which is who's doing what, is possibly, is it time to hire some more team members, right? So that's number 4. Number 4 specifically says, do we need to hire team members? This exercise we did in, I believe it was 2021. I remember it vividly on our balcony. We had a nice whiteboard and we just wrote out everything that we're doing, right? Emails, social media posts, video editing, audio editing, posting on YouTube, like just all the tasks. And then we're trying to figure out, what are things that you do that you love and you want to keep? What are things that I do that I love and I want to keep? And what are things that we're like, nah, we can let that go. Someone else can do that. Another thing that we kind of calculated is what is our hourly rate based on either our 9-to-5 salary or based on what we're making in the business. An hour of Devon's time is worth $150, is worth $2,000. An hour of Sinclair's time is worth $250, $1,000, whatever that calculus is. If your amount is $200 and you can pay $50 an hour for someone else to edit a video, it's time to hire a video editor.
Right.
If your time is worth $1,000 an hour and you're sitting down posting on social media, it's time to hire a director of social media or a director of social media management, right? Because you want to make sure the Queen said this earlier, your input is maximizing your output.
Right.
Anything you want to add to that?
I do think you mentioned like in your 9-to-5. I feel like you should be evaluating this in the lane that your business is in. And the reason why I say that is, my 9-to-5 was in a completely different industry than we're in right now. So even though my hourly rate at my 9-to-5 or in that industry would have been a lot higher, if I'm now starting a health coaching business, my hourly rate is $0 because I've never done it before.
I have a different perspective.
Okay.
So an hour of your time, if you have a 9-to-5, an hour of your time can produce $30 an hour, $50 an hour, depends on what your profession is. An hour of your time can produce X amount of dollars. So why would you spend an hour of your time somewhere else only getting $10 when you can spend an hour getting $100. You might as well hire someone with your 9-to-5 money. And I think that's another piece of the equation, right? We were using our 9-to-5 dollars to invest into the business. So if I know I can spend an hour in my 9-to-5, make 100, I then can put an hour into the business to hire a video editor for $20, hire a social media person for $20, and hire a accountant for $30. I'm now taking an hour of my 9-to-5 time and creating 3 hours of productivity in the business. Does that calculus make sense?
You lost me, but I trust you.
Yeah. So for example, I get paid sometimes $3,000 an hour to speak. All right. So if I'm speaking for $3,000 1 hour, how can I hire people to do other things that I will be doing an hour with? For example, video editing. I don't edit videos anymore. Shout out to Jaid, shout out to Harry, shout out to the team. So I'm not sitting there like I was in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. I used to be sitting there hours, clicking, editing, and I would spend 3, 4, 5 hours editing a video. That same 5 hours that I spent editing that YouTube video, that will get 13 views. 13. Thank you. If you're watching this right now, we appreciate you. We're above 13 now. Like, subscribe. Thank you so much. But spending 5 hours on that one video when I could have spent 5 hours to make a course, or I could have spent 5 hours in my 9-to-5 job making $200, $300, $400. So you want to maximize the input and output, even if it's not in this particular professional lane. Okay. We're going to do a whole nother episode because I see it in her eyes. I see it in her soul. She still doesn't believe it. We're going to do a whole nother episode on breaking down your hourly net worth or your hourly value and when it's the right time to hire other team members, whether you're working your 9-to-5 or you have your full-fledged business. Okay. Queen, anything you want to add to hiring before we move on to the final question?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. Number 5. This is a big one. Are we both fully committed to this business venture? And this kind of connects to the first question that we asked, right? Is this what you love? Is this your passion? Are you in the right market to begin with? And a really deep question you need to for sure answer is, are we fully committed to this? How much money are we putting into this? How long? How many years are we willing to put into this business before we get any type of return?
Right.
All right. Queen, going back to possibly potluck, what was the determining factor to why we decided to, you know what, let's stop doing potluck and let's go in a different direction?
I think it was seeing and I probably use this analogy several times, but I like to see our efforts and our energy as like a pot, if you will, or like you have 100% each day to give towards your different ventures. Each additional thing you add on to takes a piece of that, right? It takes a little bit of that, of whatever soup you got in that pot.
That gumbo.
And so whatever you have left is the amount of energy and time you have to spread throughout things. So I think for us and for me, it was starting to realize we are spending a lot of time, a lot of energy on this business that isn't getting us a lot of return. And if we think about like the growth potential of where we could be, if all of this energy was now channeled into one business, right? If we took our talents, all this energy, all this, money, all this time that we're putting into one business that we both really feel good about, and like we see the potential of future, we dreaming about it and things like that. Imagine where we could be. And I think that's when it was like, okay, it only makes sense, rather than trying to still divide up and give 50% to each of these things. Like, let's give 100% to this one venture and see it just take off. And so that's what we did. And I think that was, a very pivotal point where we started to see the results change and shift. And, opportunities just started literally finding themselves to us. So I think it 1000% was the right decision. In another universe, we still struggled through. Who knows where we ended up?
For sure. There's one path where potluck hit and we were millionaires off of that. And there's another path where we put all our money into it. We went flat broke and we're somewhere with no money, no dollars, and we're hungry.
Yeah.
And then there's this reality. Lovely.
Yeah. So I think it's about, again, like, where, if I wasn't doing this right now, where could I be putting my energy? Mm-hmm. And if you feel better about that, or if you feel like there's more opportunity there, then it's probably time to, again, I can use that analogy like close up shop, but just redirect, rechannel, your energy, pivot towards fewer things, towards really being really focused about fewer things rather than trying to divide up our efforts. Because he was kind of heading Play Black Wall Street, True Health Forever at the time. Mm-hmm. I was kind of heading Potluck, and it's like we're both trying to divide and conquer. Like, what if we just put our heads together and really took this thing off? And again, that's what we did, and just really, really happy that we made that decision.
For sure. All right. So again, 5 questions that if your business is not growing or your business is slowing down in its growth, you should ask each other and yourself before continuing. Number 1, are we in the right business? Do we love what we are building? Number 2, what are our measurable metrics? How do we know if the business is working or is being successful? Number 4, I'm going to go to you. Number 3, how are the responsibilities and tasks in the business divided?
Number 4, do we need to hire team members? And number 5, are we both fully committed to the business venture?
All right. Ask yourself these questions today, this weekend, all right? Make an experience out of it, have a retreat. And hopefully on the other side, y'all will determine to go full-fledged into this business, or you'll understand that it's time to make a pivot. We're going to leave this business, leave that there, and we're going to go full-fledged into this other dream. All right. Definitely make sure y'all leave us a comment below on what other questions you have about business. If you're just starting off, or if you have a business and you want it to grow, what other things are you wondering about, or questions do you have? And Ask Declare is here to answer those questions. All right. We appreciate y'all as usual for tapping into another powerful, intentional, and hopefully profitable episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show. I'm your host, Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
And I'm Sinclair, aka the health and real estate nerd.
Make sure y'all secure the marriage. Make sure y'all secure the love. And of course, make sure y'all secure the bag. Peace. Well done.
Yeah.
So Sinclair, I saw you disagreeing on number